azimuth, kind of to me looking just like Meier had published earlier was going to describe the craft that would come. So actually that was put up on a site on the internet on a Rents article, and to this day what they have said is, look, there are other races. They're not as technologically advanced perhaps as the Pleiadians claim to be, but they said if you people don't destroy yourselves and pull yourselves together, you'll be able to have some contact with some other civilized humans.
Michael Horn, we're going to take another short break. When we come back, we're going to open it up to our phone lines, but I have one more question for you myself after the break, and that is whether Meier has any insight into these reports of crashed saucers a la Roswell. So stick around, everyone. We'll be right back with more Michael Horn on Coast to Coast AM.
Just like yesterday, then I'll get on my knees and pray.
Welcome back, everyone. Thanks to the listener, I think her name was Paula, who called in, left a message that the name for this particular full moon is a wolf moon. And we are howling here with Michael Horn talking about the Billy Meier case. Michael, before we open the phone lines, as I mentioned before the break, what about crash saucers? It doesn't sound like you personally have put much credence into them, but has Meier said anything about whether either these ETs or some others have crashed?
Well, kind of au contraire. I know that, well, let me say no, I don't know firsthand, but I do know from personal experience that I had when I was in high school in the 50s. I was talking to a kid who was telling me that his dad's in the Air Force and there was a crashed flying saucer, and they took it to a Air Force base in Ohio, which I later found out, I think he was talking about Wright-Patterson. No, indeed, these things have happened, and there have been a number of them. And in the Meier material, there's quite a bit of information about this. What they've said, I'll try and do it in a nutshell, is there have been a number of crashes in the U.S. and other places. There have been retrieval, in some cases, of the craft. Whenever beings were found, these were not human beings. These were android beings that were sent by or on the missions for their creators, if you will. So these little stereotypical grays and all that are spoken about as being part of the crash at Roswell and other places, indeed, at least according to the Meier material, and I kind of would take it as being factual, that these things occurred. Other people have said it as well, and that what Meier is saying is that these were little android beings and not actual human beings that were found. But the whole story in the cover-up, according to Meier and the Pleiadians, goes back to 1915. It leads us to the War of the Worlds radio broadcast with Orson Welles, and both he and the author, H.G. Wells, were under threat of death from the Roosevelt administration if they didn't start a portrayal of very horrendous, negative extraterrestrials, since according to this information, as far back as the First World War, all nations involved became aware of unidentified flying objects that they first thought belonged to the other party. When they found it wasn't so, there was a conspiracy of silence, and when they all realized that there were indeed other beings coming from other places, that would be a very destabilizing effect on any government, religion, political system, etc. So this has been not only maintained for a long time, it was amped up starting in the Roosevelt administration to create the horrible, evil little Martian green guys from Mars thing, and we've got it today with the nonsensical gray thing and a few others, reptiles.
Well, I had an ulterior motive sort of for asking that because in addition to my interest being piqued by that book, The Contact from the Pleiades, is that when I first started working on the Area 51 stories and met Bob Lazar, and I recognize a lot of folks don't believe Bob, and that's very controversial, sort of like Billy Meier in the same venue, but the same vein, but that Lazar had said that one of the craft he saw out in S4 south of Groom Lake was what he called the sport model, right. And it was in essence that sleek beam ship that Billy Meier featured, I think, on the cover of that book. We're going to open up our lines.
Could I ask one thing, George?
Sure. Yeah.
Because I wanted to get this in case we don't get to it. My friend in New York, Alan, and Debbie have set up screenings for a film back east coming up, and that information's on the website. And we're doing a kind of a thing that's interactive, so we're going to screen the film and then start this new process of answering questions to people that come. And I just found out that I'm going to be able to make a presentation like this at the International UFO Congress in Laughlin, Nevada, and that they have structured a whole thing where we can do something that they haven't done before, this interactive type of presentation. And for the people in your audience who know, they go to their website all the time, I'm sure at ufocongress.com, that they have structured a whole special kind of week of UFO-related activity and presentations. And I just wanted people to know this so that if there are other questions that don't get handled as soon as I stop talking here, that there are events, and I want to take this into colleges and screenings all over the country.
It's the film that we've been talking about is called The Silent Revolution of Truth, a new documentary about the Billy Meier case, sort of A to Z, soup to nuts. How do people get this thing if they want it?
Come on down to theyfly.com. If we got a deal for you.
Okay.
Actually, it's pretty good. It's not very expensive.
Okay, we're going to open up our phone lines now. First, going to our wild card line, David in Atlanta. David, what's on your mind?
Yeah, hey, George, I'm enjoying the show.
Thanks.
What are the chances you could take over Coast to Coast permanently? Because you asked, you present both sides, and you ask some of the pertinent questions that need to be asked, which George Norrie doesn't seem to be able to do very often.
Well, it's a tough job. I think George does a good job of it, and I'm handling about all I can right now, but I appreciate your confidence.
He seems to just believe, and I've talked to him on the air about this, but he seems to just believe almost everything he's told. But my question is concerns a show that he did about Billy Meier, I think probably with Mr. Horn. It wasn't with Billy Meier, but it was about Billy Meier. And there was something said on that show, just a very, very dramatic piece of information that, true to form, George just let go by and didn't even comment on or follow up on. But that was that supposedly Billy Meier's wife has said that this was all a hoax. Or it was all a hoax. Can you comment on that?
Sure. As a matter of fact, in our film, we have a film of her where she was sitting with her children being interviewed and talking about, now we don't run her interview there, but she is on record not only in a film interview, but she took a lie detector test. And along with Meier and I think 15 other witnesses, all of them passed 100%. And, part of what happens is when you get a story like this with Meier, we think that if it's true, well, it's got to be some perfect guy with no problems in his life. 21 assassination attempts, kidnapping attempts on his children, and a marriage that goes south after 30 years. Probably in some ways, for understandable reasons, there was no privacy after a certain point, and whatever problems they had between them. Even in the film, Meier speaks about this and how it was he was told in advance, you are going to marry this woman, but you're in for a bad ride. Let's just say this much, that since their divorce, she has apparently sided with some debunker or skeptic. There's talk that she also has become enriched by that. Billy simply says, well, it's an unhappy episode in my life, but, she passed the lie detector test about her own sightings and about her seeing one of the extraterrestrials in her living room. But, everybody, again, you have to work it out for yourself. One in column A and one in column B.
David, thank you for the question. We're going to take a break right here and come back, and we'll take as many of your calls as you can. I know a lot of folks are hanging on the lines and have questions for Michael Horn, and we'll get to everyone that we can. Stick around, everyone. This is Coast to Coast AM. Welcome back to Coast AM, everyone. I'm George Knapp. We have some time left with Michael Horn to talk about the Billy Meier case, and we're going back to the phones. Kevin in Canada on the wild card line. What's on your mind?
Hello there. Yes, this is Kevin in Iroquois Falls, Ontario. How's it going there, George?
It's going just fine. What's your question?
Well, yes, I heard talk about the contactees, and then also heard talks about UFO crashes as well. And I hear about the crashes in Philadelphia, in Pennsylvania, and in Roswell, but never heard talk about the UFO crash up here in Northern Ontario back in the 1950s, and was also an inadvertent contactee experience as well. If I could tell the story a little bit.
Well, I'd really rather you talk to, if you had a question for Michael Horn while we got him here, Did you have some input on this, Michael?
No, I don't. I really don't. I don't even know that I've heard about it, and it's not. You see, again, to me, this will sound weird. I'm not that interested in UFOs. I know it sounds a little bizarre. I'm interested in the purpose, the